When was he sworn?
He was
Wasn't it for public comment?
He was sworn in this room at the preliminary hearing on January 16th, 2016, Chairperson.
So he's still under, as counsel, that he's still under oath for purposes of the final hearing? Take your word.
We'll clarify. Mr. Niland, you understand you're still under oath?
Yes, I do.
All right. And you have up there in your book, Invenergy Exhibits 57, 58A, and 58B.
Yes, I do.
And 57 is your CV?
Yes, it is.
No revisions to that?
No, there isn't.
58A is your pre-filed direct testimony?
Yes.
And I believe you do have some revisions to that? So
Yes, there are.
Let's go through those. Page 2, line 3. 3 should now be 5.
Yes, that's correct.
And you've made that change?
I have.
Okay. Page 6, line 8. The word financial should appear before the word security.
Yes.
Okay. Page 6, line 8.
Financing costs and financial security requirements.
Okay. Page 6, line 25. STEM should be STEAM.
Yes.
Page 9, lines 13 to 14. There's a duplicate sentence there that should be deleted.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Page 12, line 2. It should be have instead of be.
Yes.
Sure. Sorry. Line 2. Should be have instead of be. Good? Yes. All right. Page 13, line 13 should now read Mason Smith instead of Edinaldo Tvaldi.
Yes.
Okay. And then a couple of developments that also result in updating. So if you could go to page 18, lines 13 to 18, and this is the discussion about the access road. You see that?
Yes.
And that should now be updated with the information in Invenergy 196, which is the report regarding the new access plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And then similarly, also...
Mr. Blaze, I don't get what we're doing there. So this is testimony as of the time it was submitted. What are you doing to that, actually?
There's no change. I just wanted to confirm for the record that it's now supplemented by our Exhibit 196. That's all. There's no specific change in the testimony itself. And then same exhibit, page 28. Lines 1 to 3. Has this been updated by Invenergy 190 as the PAPA? The PAPA has been issued.
Yes, for the previous access road, that's correct.
Correct. Okay. As far as we can tell, those are all the changes that we have.
Yes.
Need your readings this morning? I'll tender the witness.
Chairperson, if it's okay with you, OER is requesting to go first on cross-examination. It's my understanding that the other parties don't have an objection to the change in order.
No objection.
No objection.
fine with me.
No objection.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Niland.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to start with your pre-filed supplemental testimony dated November 20th, 2017. Specifically, the attachment that's referenced as JN Supplemental 1.
I'm sorry, just for the record, that supplemental testimony was actually corrected and refiled December 13, 2017. I just wanted to make sure we all know that for the record.
Yep, that's fine. It's just one quote from that attachment JN Supplemental 1 letter.
What exhibit number is that?
I'm not sure.
58B.
58B? Okay.
And it'll be page 2 of that letter.
Okay.
And just for background, is that a letter written by you to the EFSB board?
Oh, page 2 of the letter. Yes.
On page 2 of that letter you write, CREC will lead to significant CO2, NOx, and SO2 emissions reductions, including compliance with state and regional goals. Is that still your position today?
Yes, it is.
Turning to OER's supplemental advisory opinion, page 19, I don't think there's a need to go there, I'm going to quote it. It says that CREC's contribution to reducing regional emissions is likely to diminish over time. Do you agree with that statement?
I do. It's based on the assumption that, additional renewables are going to be brought online over time, that states will enact and enforce their renewable portfolio standards. So, yes.
And is it possible that more efficient natural gas plants will be developed over that time as well?
I think that would be speculation. Having been in the industry for as long as I have, there certainly has been an increase in the efficiency over time, but, future improvements, I think, are certainly very difficult for me to predict.
Going back to OER's opinion about CREC's contributions diminishing over time, would it be fair to say that the later in time that CREC begins operations, the less impact it will have on reducing CO2 emissions?
That may be true. I think we've seen some of that in the projections that PA has come up with when the COD date has changed in time.
Earlier in the proceedings, there was testimony about the possibility that market conditions could incentivize and cause a power plant to sit on a permit or delay a permit until market conditions change. Do you recall that testimony? I think it was Mr. Walker who testified about that.
Yeah, I recall a little bit of that.
If the EFSB issued a permit in this case, is there a possibility that CREC would delay construction because of market conditions?
Our intention is to build the project, so our view is that the market conditions now and going forward are going to be sufficient, so if we get a permit, we're going to go ahead and build.
I'd like to turn your attention to OER Exhibit 4. That's the final decision by the Massachusetts EFSB in the footprint Salem Harbor matter. And in Exhibit A of that document, it's in the back, page 4 of Exhibit A. It's probably like the 30th page of the document around that. C5 is a condition that reads, the footprint 12-2 decision provides that construction of the proposed project must begin within 3 years of the issuance date of that decision. Would a provision similar to the one I just read act as a safeguard against the power plant from sitting on its permit because of market conditions?
Yes, I would agree with that.
And if a permit was issued by the EFSB in this matter, would 3 years from the issuance date be a reasonable time to allot for construction to begin of CREC?
Yes, I believe so.
Are you familiar with the Rhode Island Resilient Act?
Yeah.
Is it your understanding that one of the purposes of the Rhode Island Resilient Act is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050?
Yes.
And are you aware of the Massachusetts Global Warming Solutions Act?
I am.
It is one of the purposes of the Massachusetts GWSA to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Would a permit condition that CREC cease commercial operations by the year 2050 be consistent with the purposes of the Resilient Rhode Island Act?
I don't think it would be entirely consistent because you're trying to get to an 80% value by 2050. So, assuming that it's still a very highly efficient plant compared to other gas-fired resources that may be in existence at the time, it may be that that still could be the most efficient resource. So,
would such a provision that would be at the option of the state to terminate that, would that give flexibility to state policymakers and state executive agencies to address that 2050 goal?
at the option of the state to...
So in other words, if there was a termination, a permit condition that CREC was to cease operations by 2050, subject to the state policymakers determining, like you said, that it's still an efficient plant, still reducing carbon emissions, would that give the state flexibility?
I think so.
Is another purpose of the Resilient Rhode Island Act to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 45% below 1990 levels by 2035?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Are you familiar with the declining CO2 emissions cap that is contained within OER Exhibit 4, the footprint decision?
The footprint agreement that was entered into that has a declining CO2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would the application of a similar concept to CREC in Rhode Island be consistent with the purposes of the Resilient Rhode Island Act?
I think so.
Listening to this guy, he's advocating for power plant.
Mr. Niland, what is the projected useful life of the facility?
I would say it's on the order of 40 years.
Yet when we heard from the energy expert, a lot of these plants are operating well beyond, a lot of electric generating facilities are operating well beyond what probably someone testified their useful life was.
Right.
Correct?
Right. Yeah. Some of them are.
Thank you, Mr. Niland. OER has no further questions.